very excited to talk to both of you. I watched those first two episodes and it gave me flashbacks to my childhood because I think I'm maybe just young enough that I remember making tapes. For me, it was more burning CDs than anything, but that power of music is so amazing. But what I found really interesting about the show is that while you're both playing the same character, it's very different versions of that character. And I was
Mm.
curious, Florence, for you, did you work with Teresa to kind of establish how the two of you were going to be playing the same character, or did you do that independently from one another?
Yeah, so funnily enough, I was cast when Teresa was near finishing, if not finished, filming. So, and then this is our second time meeting each other because the
Oh,
first
wow.
time we for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like Teresa, like you were saying, I think they did a good job of casting us on our energy and how we played the character and how we interpreted the role. Um, but I mean, the script was written so well that a lot of it did come from the script. But we literally we haven't really met each other
Probably.
to yeah yeah.
And
So yeah.
luckily we had Lucy Gaffey at the helm. So she knew what she wanted from these characters. And also Florence made a really good point in another interview, which was that in such different stages of our lives. I mean, my version of Alison is completely having a rebirth, and she's shape shifted. She's completely trying to leave that life behind. So she's almost reinvented herself. So some mannerisms would still be the same, but because it's an absolute overhaul of her life, the pressure wasn't there, I think, as much.
Yeah.
And Teresa, for you, I'm wondering if people in Sheffield are going to take offense to the way that Allison kind of reacts in that first episode where she's like, "Oh, I don't want to think about Sheffield." Was it kind of channeling all of that past, like all of the weight of everything that we kind of see in these first episodes? Was that difficult to play as just somebody who's years past that phase of her life?
When you go through such a traumatic childhood, um, there are so many different ways people deal with that. And in my case, it's just like pretend it didn't happen. Throw it away. Don't think about it. Create a different story, a different narrative for myself. And that's a part of her healing process. And she just kind of armors up and pretends that part of her life didn't exist, which is ultimately, as we find out, not very healthy. So, and it comes out in different ways for her. It manifests itself in how she's dealing with her relationship and with her kids. And then ultimately, when she reconnects with Daniel again, it all starts to unravel. The hardest thing for me was I had to drop, we weren't 100% sure on what we were going to do with the accent. I was going to drop it 100%. And then we were like, some words we should keep a little bit of the accent. And then there was another school of thought that I should do a light version of the accent. And that did not get figured out until the morning we started shooting. So that for me was the hardest thing, because it seemed like we just had, so there were so many different ideas surrounding what to do with the accent. We ultimately decided, I think, to drop it like 95%. And that was really challenging. I had a dialect coach, and yeah, so that was really, really hard. Like, how do you make it believable but that she's from Sheffield, but also she's completely changed her life, and
Mm.
she's
Yeah.
pretending she's an Australian upper class woman from, the upper echelons of Mossman in Sydney, married
Mm.
to a surgeon. So
Mm.
that was aspect was challenging.
That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, you both do such a good job in this series, and it's like two very different stories that are combined together. But I wanted to ask for both of you, and Florence, we can start with you. Was there a particular song, because there's so much music in this series, was there a particular song that you kind of identified with the most in playing this character?
I'm trying to remember if this scene is in the first two episodes, but there's a yes, it is. It's in the first episode. There's a scene, which is the first moment that I guess Dan and Alison first time they kiss, and it's like the moment that they really express this true connection that they have. And that song called, is it Some Candy Talking or Candy Talking? I don't know, but that was in the script, and I used to listen to that song before I went on to set, and I played it like an hour ago, and it just brings me straight back to filming. But yeah, there's a couple of 80s songs that I used to listen to before I went in. But honestly, that whole genre, because it's so different to the music I listen to nowadays, so that whole genre would kind of get me in the mood.
What about you, Teresa? I think we were both like right around the same age. We were a little
Yeah.
young for this music, but which one did you really identify with?
Well, actually, Jim and I sent each other playlists.
Oh, nice.
We didn't know if they were necessarily going to make it into the show. And that actually, rather than the scripted songs, it was like, what are the songs like beneath and in between the scenes that really moved us and told the story? So I just pulled up my mixtape. It says Mixtape for Alison by Jim Sturgis. And the one on here that I was just continuously listening to was In Your Eyes, Peter Gabriel,
Nice.
which is such a beautiful, beautiful track. And I think it sort of tells the story of these two. And it's a little bit tragic and it's so beautiful. But I personally used to listen to a lot of Peter Gabriel. Like when I was first falling in love with my first love, that was one of our tracks that I'd always listened to. And then it was on this playlist. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that became the song for me for the show.
Awesome. Well, I think you summed it up. Tragic and beautiful really is what this series is. I loved it so much. Thank you both so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank you so much. You have a great background, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I
appreciate
know.
it.
So cool.
It's sick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo remains an independent company, and we appreciate all of your support.